Marilyn Monroe, a name that once echoed across major movie theaters, leaving its mark through a string of blockbuster films and massive box office success. She was the face that captivated the entire world, the embodiment of beauty and glamour of the 20th century. But then she suddenly died at the age of 36, with the cause believed to be a sleeping pill overdose. While the world had not yet recovered from the shock, an unexpected name emerged, dragging along revelations that shook everything. Bernice Baker Miracle, the mysterious sister. After years of silence, Marilyn Monroe's sister suddenly stepped into the light, bringing with her fragments of truth that could shatter the theory of a simple accident, and a warning that what the two sisters endured was darker than anyone dared to imagine. What is the truth? Is the rumor that Hollywood spent $500,000 to bury the secret of the sister real, and who was really pulling the strings behind it all? Do not look away. This may be the most chilling shock of 2026 that you must know. A troubled childhood with a mentally ill mother, Marilyn Monroe, born Norma Jean Mortensen, was born in Los Angeles, California, the daughter of Gladys Monroe Baker, a woman who worked in the film industry as a film cutter. She never truly had a father in her life. That man was almost nothing more than a cold, empty absence. As for her mother, the one person who should have been her support, she gradually spiraled into mental collapse and was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1934. From that point on, Norma Jean essentially became a ward of the state. Her mother entrusted her close friend Grace McKee to be her legal guardian. But for Norma Jean, this was not the beginning of salvation. It was the doorway into a life filled with instability and unease. Over the next 8 years until she turned 16, Norma Jean was passed through 11 foster homes and 1 orphanage. In some places, she was treated poorly. She hated the feeling of being sent away like an object no one truly wanted to keep. The years from 9 to 12 were especially dark. Not only did she have to keep moving from place to place, she was also bullied by classmates for being too tall, too skinny for wearing plain clothes, and for daring to say that one day she would become an actress. It was only when she moved in with Anna Lower, her 58-year-old maternal aunt, that Norma Jean experienced 4 relatively stable years. Anna did not judge her. She encouraged her education and her dream of becoming a movie star. But that stability did not last. At 15, Norma Jean moved in with Grace and her husband, Doc. By 1941, when they were preparing to relocate for a new job, they could not take her with them. The final solution was to arrange for Norma Jean to marry Jim Dougherty. A life of constant displacement led Marilyn to the decision to marry at 16, so she would not have to continue living without a place to belong. And just 2 years later, in 1944, Norma Jean began working as a model, gradually stepping into a new life under the name Marilyn Monroe. From factory worker to sexy symbol, World War II opened a turning point when in 1945, while working at the radio plane factory, Norma Jean was photographed by photographer David Conover. From those propaganda-style images, she quickly entered the modeling industry, signed with an agency, dyed her hair blonde, and began building an image in front of the camera. Along with the change in appearance came the birth of the name Marilyn Monroe, a transition from an ordinary life into a carefully crafted persona designed for the entertainment market. In 1946, she signed a contract with 20th Century Fox, but the early phase was far from smooth. For months, she was not given significant roles, spending time taking acting classes and training her skills. When opportunities came, Marilyn gradually appeared in small roles before moving into more substantial parts. Films like The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve brought her attention, but the real breakthrough came with Niagara in 1953. After that, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire turned her into a box office star. Notably, Some like it hot. In 1959, not only achieved major commercial success, but also earned her a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a comedy or musical. Along with success, Marilyn's salary rose rapidly. From small, early contracts, she became one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood, at times earning hundreds of thousands of dollars per film, an enormous figure for that era. However, to maintain her image and keep up with an intense work schedule, she relied on medication. Marilyn used barbiturates to sleep and amphetamines to stay awake, creating a cycle of dependence that was difficult to control. Despite fame, wealth, and a solid position in the industry, Marilyn remained trapped in the dumb blonde stereotype and under tight studio control. Her personal life did not bring the stability she was searching for. Relationships did not last, and even with everything Hollywood could offer, she never truly found happiness in love. A complicated and tragic personal life. Her first marriage to Jim Dougherty came when she was too young, barely understanding what love was. Jim was not a bad man, but he represented stability more than emotion. For Marilyn, it was a refuge, a way to avoid being sent back to an orphanage or another foster home. But when the opportunity to enter modeling and film appeared, the distance between them began to show. Jim wanted a wife at home while Marilyn began to want a different life. The marriage ended quietly, but it left her with a very clear fear. Even when she tried to hold onto a home, she still could not remain in it. With Joe DiMaggio, everything looked more perfect. A baseball legend and a film icon. The public saw them as the image of the American dream. But behind the beautiful photos was a tense relationship. Joe loved Marilyn, but it was a kind of love that wanted to hold her tightly, to shield her from the eyes of the world. He could not stand the idea of his woman being desired by millions. The famous white dress scene in The 7-Year Itch was not only an iconic cinematic moment, it became the breaking point of their marriage. Jealousy, control, and the gap between a man who wanted to keep his wife to himself and a star who could never belong to anyone pushed everything to the limit. When the marriage ended, Marilyn did not just lose a husband. She lost another belief that love could protect her. Arthur Miller appeared as another hope. Not a sports icon, but an intellectual. With Miller, Marilyn believed that she would finally be seen as a person with depth, not just a beautiful body under the spotlight. She admired him and wanted to step into a world of thought and serious art. But here, the tragedy became even heavier. When she read Miller's notes, where he described her as a burden and a disappointment, something inside Marilyn completely collapsed. This was no longer just a difference between two people. It was the feeling of being seen through the surface and still not being accepted. Alongside these emotional breakdowns was a deeply personal pain as a woman. Marilyn longed for a family, longed to become a mother. But endometriosis and repeated miscarriages shattered that dream. Each loss was not only the loss of a child, but the loss of another piece of hope. She suffered not only mentally, but physically, and the two pains slowly layered over each other. In the end, every man who entered Marilyn's life touched a part of her deepest longing, but none truly healed the fracture within. And when love could not save her, when Hollywood could not save her, Marilyn began to slip deeper into what was consuming an entire generation of stars at the time: medication, insomnia, and nights where she could no longer live with herself. A mysterious death that shocked public opinion at age 36. In the final years of Marilyn Monroe's life, her days were no longer the glamorous string the public had once seen. Prolonged insomnia, work pressure, and emotional instability made her increasingly dependent on medication. Barbiturates were used to sleep, amphetamines helped her stay awake to work, and combining the two gradually became a dangerous cycle. What matters is that during that period, this was almost an underground culture in Hollywood. Many stars used drugs to keep up with packed schedules, but Marilyn was one of the most prominent cases, in which that dependence spiraled beyond control. Her career in the early 1960s began to show cracks. She was frequently late, absent from set, and judged difficult to work with. The peak came when she was fired from the project Something's Got to Give a decision that caused shock because the studio itself had previously built an entire system around her name. Losing control at work brought pressure on her finances, image, and position in the industry. At age 36, Marilyn was facing the risk of being replaced in an industry always searching for new faces. In the early morning of August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found dead at her home in Brentwood, California. Beside her were multiple used sleeping pill bottles. The official conclusion stated that the cause was a barbiturate overdose, classified as probable suicide. However, that conclusion immediately sparked controversy and did not satisfy public opinion. A global star at the height of fame, gone suddenly under circumstances filled with gaps in information, led the public to raise a long list of questions. Many people in the industry, such as journalist James Bacon and Pat Newcomb, believed Marilyn showed no signs of wanting to end her life. According to them, she was still planning new projects, even competing for a script with Elizabeth Taylor. Some direct witnesses, such as Officer Jack Clemens, the first person at the scene, and prosecutor John Miner, who took part in the forensic review, also expressed doubts about the transparency of the official ruling. They believed the scene showed signs of staging, especially the disappearance of many documents, letters, and notes related to Marilyn's phone calls. Other theories kept appearing through many books and investigative materials. Robert Slatzer believed her complicated private life had pushed her to a tragic end. Other studies raised suspicions about the role of people close to her, including housekeeper Eunice Murray and psychiatrist Ralph Greenson. Some theories even raised the issue that her death may have been connected to powerful relationships, including rumors surrounding the Kennedy family, although none of that was ever officially confirmed. Marilyn's funeral took place on August 8, 1962, at Westwood Memorial Park in Los Angeles. The service was private with a limited number of attendees. Joe DiMaggio, her second husband, handled all of the arrangements. He stayed beside her body all night, placing roses in her hand, an act that felt more personal than ceremonial. From that moment on, Marilyn Monroe was no longer just a young movie star who died too soon. She became one of America's greatest mysteries, where Hollywood power rumor and death became intertwined. But while the whole world was busy searching for answers, there was one woman quietly standing outside it, all the person who understood Marilyn on a deeper level than anyone else. The mysterious sister in the hidden corners no one knew. For decades, the whole world believed Marilyn Monroe grew up completely alone, a girl without family, without support, pushed from one children's home to another, and then rising on her own to become an icon. But the truth held one important detail that was hidden. Marilyn was not alone in the way Hollywood told the story. She had a maternal half-sister named Bernice Baker Miracle, and the existence of that sister was removed from the official narrative. The source of that disappearance began with the structure of the family itself. Marilyn's father abandoned both sisters, and each grew up in a different place, unaware of the other's existence for many years. When the studio system began constructing Marilyn's image, they chose a narrative that was clear and easy to sell: a completely orphaned girl. No family, no one to protect her. That story created powerful sympathy and helped the public bond with her. But for that story to exist in full, more complicated details had to be erased. Bernice became an element that did not fit the ultimate orphan image, and so she was pushed aside. Bernice did not resist. She lived a quiet life, never appearing beside Marilyn in public, never speaking to the press, never using her connection to one of the biggest stars in the world for personal gain. While Marilyn stepped into the whirlwind of fame, Bernice remained in an ordinary life, working, building a family, and raising children. two worlds existed side by side, but were never allowed to meet under the lights. What made Bernice important was not simply that she was Marilyn's sister, but that she was the only person who held on to the real human being behind the image. Bernice knew Norma Jean before the name Marilyn Monroe ever existed. She read private letters the public never saw. In them, there was no dumb blonde image promoted by Hollywood, but a woman reading Dostoevsky, interested in psychology and constantly questioning her own worth. Marilyn wrote many times about her fear of developing the same mental illness as her mother, about the feeling of losing control, and about not wanting to be seen as a body more than a human being. Beyond the letters, Bernice was also the person who received late-night phone calls. As work pressure and dependence on medication began to rise, Marilyn turned to her as an anchor. Those conversations never appeared in newspapers, were never included in interviews, yet they reflected Marilyn's state with precision in the final years of her life. Bernice knew very well that her sister was using sleeping pill stimulants and was surrounded by complicated relationships, but she never made any of it public. The most important point is that Marilyn was not completely alone. She had a real family connection, yet she could not bring it into the light. That created a paradox. The public believed they were sympathizing with a woman who had no one, while in reality part of her life was being forced into hiding to serve a commercial image. Bernice, therefore, was not a side character. She was the part cut out of the story, the missing piece that made the Marilyn legend more complicated. And to understand why Bernice held such a clear grasp on Marilyn's real self, it is necessary to go back to a train and a station in Detroit where the two sisters first met in 1944. Detroit in 1944, the first meeting. Detroit in 1944, not 1994, was the moment the two sisters first met in person after years of knowing each other only through letters. Bernice was already an adult then with a family of her own, while Norma Jean was just 18, living in the transition between being an ordinary girl and someone beginning to step into the entertainment industry. After years of exchanging letters, Bernice decided to take the train to Detroit, where Norma Jean was living with her husband, Jim Dougherty. Before the trip, nothing was certain. The two had never met. They did not know whether a connection built through writing would be enough to create a real relationship. When the train stopped at the station, the moment of recognition happened almost immediately. They did not look exactly alike. Bernice was more reserved, quieter, carrying the look of someone whose life had already settled. Norma Jean was different, brighter, more lively, and had already begun to realize that her looks could become an advantage. Even so, their similarities showed up in the way they looked at the world and in how they responded to what the family had failed to give them. The meeting happened quickly without much need for confirmation, as if both had been preparing for that moment for a long time. In the days that followed, the two sisters spent a great deal of time talking, mainly piecing together the parts of history that each of them had only held in half. They talked about Gladys, about the periods when she was still lucid, and the times when she lost control. They compared what they had heard about their father, Stanley Gifford, a man who had left and never returned. Those scattered fragments of memory slowly came together, forming a clearer picture of the family neither of them had ever had the chance to fully understand. Norma Jean spoke fairly directly about her condition. She talked about her fear of developing the same illness as her mother, about not being sure she could maintain stability for the long term. She also spoke about the feeling of having no foundation, that her life felt like something being built in pieces with no fixed anchor. Along with that came the desire to escape her current life, to find a clearer and more active path. This was the period when she had begun working at the factory and had already encountered an environment that could open the door to new opportunities. From Bernice's point of view, this meeting provided more information than letters ever could. She realized her sister was not just searching for opportunity, but also searching for a way to prove herself. Jean's need to be recognized and noticed was not superficial, but rooted in the instability underneath. This would later play an important role in the way she chose relationships and in how she responded to pressure. Looking back later, Bernice determined that the early signs were already present in that first meeting. The fragility did not disappear when Norma Jean entered Hollywood. It was only covered by a new image with blonde hair, a carefully built style, and a tightly managed system. As fame increased, those elements did not go away, they were simply pushed inward. Detroit in 1944 was therefore not just the first meeting between two sisters. It was the moment Bernice gained access to the fullest version of Norma Jean before the name Marilyn Monroe completely took over. The information gathered during that period became the basis for Bernice to understand more clearly what would happen later, from career decisions to personal problems that became more and more complex. But what Bernice could not stop in 1944 finally drifted in front of her by the summer of 1962 in a late-night phone call where every word sounded like a warning. The final phone call in late July 1962. In late July 1962, a late-night phone call became the last contact between Marilyn Monroe and her sister Bernice. By that point, calls like that were no longer unusual. A packed work schedule, prolonged insomnia, and her use of medication meant Marilyn often reached out at very late hours. When the phone rang, Bernice answered and immediately recognized her sister's voice on the other end. The voice was no longer clear, slow, and heavy, a familiar sign of barbiturates combined with alcohol. During the conversation, Marilyn did not talk about work or any concrete plans. The content mainly revolved around issues that had come up many times before. She mentioned her mother, Gladys, and her mental condition. This was not the first time she had brought it up, but this time the level of concern was more obvious. Marilyn spoke about the possibility that she might follow the same path, lose control, and be placed in a treatment facility like her mother. Alongside that was the state of her sleep. She talked about being unable to sleep without medication, but when she used it, she fell into a state of dependence. When she woke up, she did not feel restored, only exhausted all over again. The call also included details related to the relationships around her. Marilyn mentioned certain pressures coming from influential people, including a reference to Robert Kennedy. However, the information was not specific and was not presented as a clear event. What can be established is that these relationships added pressure during a period when she was already struggling with her health and her work. The content of the call shows that Marilyn was in an unstable state, but still able to communicate and remain aware of her situation. Throughout the conversation, Bernice mostly listened. There was no complicated advice and no strong reaction. Her role at that moment was to keep the connection going, to keep the conversation alive as long as possible. The geographic distance meant Bernice could not be there in person. Any support was limited to the phone call itself. This is a major difference from what the public often imagines about a support network around Marilyn. In reality, there were not many people who could truly listen to her during that period. The call lasted until Marilyn's voice began to fade. Before it ended, Bernice said one simple sentence, "I love you, Norma Jean. Please take care of yourself." Marilyn's response was unclear, almost automatic, and then the call ended. There was no sign that this would be the last time they ever spoke. Yet in the larger context, this call reflects Marilyn's condition at a point very close to the day she died. Only a few days later, in the early hours of August 5th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her Brentwood home. The person who informed Bernice was not law enforcement, but Joe DiMaggio. The news came suddenly with no time to prepare. That final call, therefore, became the closest record of Marilyn's state before her death. The significance of that call does not lie in emotion, but in the information it provides. It clearly shows the depth of her dependence on medication, the prolonged insomnia, the pressure from relationships, and the decline in her overall stability. It is an important data point for understanding the final stage of Marilyn Monroe's life, rather than relying only on theories that emerged after she died. Yet what is striking is that after the real person stopped, the image of Marilyn Monroe continued to exist, spread and become a permanent part of 20th century popular culture, an eternal pop culture icon, the human being. Marilyn Monroe stopped at 36, but the symbol named Marilyn has never disappeared from the world. After her death in 1962, instead of fading into memory, her image spread further, endured longer, and became an almost permanent part of 20th century popular culture. This did not come only from the tragedy of her life, but also from what she left on screen. Films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, How to Marry a Millionaire, and The 7-Year Itch were not only commercially successful, they also shaped how the public viewed a female star in that era. In Bus Stop, she showed a clearer ability for inward acting, while in Some Like It, Hot Marilyn proved she could command comedy with precise timing and a distinct appeal. Her final film, The Misfits, revealed another side, less commercially colorful, but clearly reflecting the shift she was trying to pursue. The most important part of Marilyn's legacy does not lie in the number of films or awards, but in her long-term influence. She was not just a beautiful face. The way she appeared on screen created a new standard of cinematic allure. The combination of her looks, the way she moved, the rhythm of her speech, and her expressions created a model that was extremely difficult to copy. Many actresses later tried to recreate it, but no one could fully reproduce the effect Marilyn brought. Her comedic ability is also something that has often been undervalued. In scenes that seemed light on the surface, she controlled timing and interaction with her co-stars extremely well, creating a sense of natural ease without showing off technique. Marilyn's image quickly moved beyond film. The white dress in The 7-Year Itch became a global visual icon. Her platinum blonde hair, breathy voice, and the way she posed in front of the camera were repeated in advertising, photography, and art. Andy Warhol placed her face into his series of pop artworks, turning Marilyn into an artistic subject, representing an entire era of image consumption. From that point on, Marilyn was not only an actress, but a visual symbol that could be reused in many different settings, from fashion and music to media. However, that very process also revealed another side. As the image was endlessly reproduced, the real person behind it was gradually flattened. Marilyn became an easily recognizable symbol, but a difficult person to understand correctly. For many years, the public mostly approached her through the shell of the dumb blonde, a simple image easy to consume and well-suited to the market. Only later, when documents, letters, and memoirs were released, did that view begin to change. People realized Marilyn was not just a product of Hollywood, but also an individual with thoughts, with efforts to control her career, and with very clear inner contradictions. At this point, the role of Bernice Baker Miracle becomes important. Without the information from her sister, Marilyn's image could easily have remained fixed as a surface-level symbol. Bernice provided another perspective, not from the media or the studio, but from family. Through that, Norma Jean did not completely disappear behind the name Marilyn Monroe. Bernice's existence also reveals something that is rarely mentioned. Marilyn was not completely alone the way the official story once constructed, but that connection was never allowed to appear openly. When looking back on the entire journey, Marilyn Monroe existed on many different levels. She was a box office star, a visual icon, a product of the studio system, and at the same time an individual forced to deal with pressures beyond her ability to control. It is exactly this overlap that makes her such a special case in Hollywood history. Not only because she was famous, but because of the way she continues to be talked about after her death. Even now, Marilyn's image still appears across many different fields, from film and music to advertising. But the way the public approaches her has changed. Instead of looking only at her appearance, many people have started paying attention to the way she built her career, the limits she had to face, and the way she tried to reshape her own image. That does not erase the commercial element, but it adds the depth that has long been needed. So when speaking about Marilyn Monroe, it is impossible to stop at just one definition. She was both a symbol and the result of a system, and also a human being, with aspects that were never fully told while she was alive. And perhaps the real question now is not how famous Marilyn was, but how well we actually understand her. In your opinion, what is the hardest part of Marilyn Monroe's story to accept, and which film do you remember her most for?
This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only, thoughtfully compiled from public archives, historical records, and classic articles. While we strive for accuracy and balanced storytelling, some details from Hollywood's golden age remain unconfirmed and should be treated as speculative. We encourage viewers to draw their own independent conclusions. If this journey through Hollywood's shadows resonated with you, please leave a gentle like and subscribe with the bell icon so you never miss our next chapter. To continue uncovering the forgotten tragedies of the Golden Age, simply select the video on your screen right now. Thank you for keeping their memories alive.